What's up, Tiger fans? We are back bringing you episode 3 of Tiger Cats, the official podcast of Towson Athletics. As always, I'm your host, Laura Leidig with the Towson Sports Network. And for this episode, we are bringing back Rashad Christian. Rashad, how's it going?
It's going good. We've got like 8 days left until the end of the semester, so I'm just looking forward to that.
Our guest this week is Elysa Newman. She is the Director of Academic Achievement, working with our football team for a few years now. Elysa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So to get things started, what do you do in academic achievement? What does a day look like for you?
I like to categorize it as organized chaos. No one day is ever the same to the next day. So as the director for athletic academic achievement, I have a lot more administrative responsibilities. I do report to our senior assistant AD, Jeff Gordon, who oversees our whole unit. And I kind of do the day-to-day operations of things, especially training our staff, doing professional development, kind of overseeing a lot of the programs. And then as the academic advisor for the football team, that's kind of, it keeps me on the ground, in the trenches with the student athletes, working with them all day, every day, whether it's in academic meetings, going over, grades, upcoming assignments, things like that, helping them study for exams or, making an outline for a paper or covering study hall in a normal semester, unlike the pandemic. So it's been a little bit of a challenge.
So you just have a lot of busy days ahead of you, really?
Yes, especially now that we're kind of approaching final exams after today. It's definitely going to pick up just because as the grades, even though my academic meetings are done for the semester, just kind of making sure that students are going to, attending their final exams or handing in their final exams, whether it's papers or their actual tests, things like that. And then just watching those grades trickle in, before the break, and then sometimes not until after the break. So I'm waiting in anticipation. So,
Do you handle a lot of things over Zoom now because of the pandemic?
yeah. So I predominantly work from home. I go in occasionally if I need to, attend some sort of meeting, which is very infrequently. Because most meetings are now through Zoom or WebEx, and just trying to get a change of scenery sometimes because my basement office is not always the best to look at all the time, and my dogs are always bothering me. So it's a good change of scenery to see some faces in person, obviously wearing masks, but it's just an occasionally going into the office.
So changing it up, where did you go to college? What did you major in?
I went to undergrad at Appalachian State University, and I actually had gotten my degree in athletic training, sports medicine, with a minor in special education. I thought going into grad school that I wanted to be an athletic director at like a high school, and I found out during my first year of grad school, which I did at East Carolina University, and I was getting my degree in sport management and administration. I realized that most athletic directors at the high school level typically have a full-time teaching job, and then they supplement by being an athletic director or coach or something like that. So I honestly did not want to go to school any longer than I was projected in order to finish my master's. So I also wanted to reevaluate because that first year of grad school, I was working at a high school as a first responder, an assistant softball coach for JV and varsity, and I was a substitute teacher for an exceptional children's class because of my special education background. So I just did not want to be at the high school level anymore. I missed college athletics. And so I, did some soul searching and some research with my graduate advisor, kind of found out about academic advising for student athletes and ended up getting an internship at UMass Amherst to do my practicum during my second year of grad school. And I was the advisor for 3 of their teams and then the tutor coordinator for the whole athletic department. So I just I just fell into it and loved it. Kind of fit my personality, especially with my special education background. That kind of helped me support student athletes who need a little bit more academic support.
So was this job, this like leadership role in student athlete academics, was this something you've been wanting to do even before college? 'Cause I know you mentioned, you wanted to get into sport management and stuff, but before that, was this something that you envisioned yourself doing?
So I was an athlete growing up. I did softball was my main sport, and then I played field hockey and a little bit of basketball. I'm only 5'2", so that didn't really last very long. But I I knew I wanted to find a career that allowed me to still be around athletics, whether it was academics or my graduate advisor had also suggested compliance, but I just don't have the memorization skills for the manual. And so I ended up doing some research, and I took a class in the middle of my graduate program during that summer for counseling for adult education. And I did all of my research on advising of student athletes. And just the more I learned about it, the more it just fit my personality. So, I mean, it wasn't really early on that I knew that I wanted to be an academic advisor or, be an athletic support in collegiate athletics, but I knew I wanted to be in athletics somewhere. I just didn't know where until later on.
What is it about your personality that you think led you to this career path?
I definitely feel like my background in special education, as well as I was diagnosed in like first or second grade of having a learning disability and ADHD. So I feel like I can sometimes, comprehend what these students are really going through, whether they are diagnosed or not. And then they just sometimes student athletes come into college underprepared and they just need that extra support of learning time management, organization, learning strategies, and things like that to help them with the transition into college. And so between that and I just think I have, I try to be very personable and open-minded. I also, want to hold them accountable. And a lot of the football players end up calling me Mama E. And so, because I do I am holding them accountable and making sure that, they're doing their assignments and handing things in and, making good choices. And I also had implemented a life skills workshop series because a lot of them were coming to me and saying, I wish I had learned this, or I wish I learned that before I got to college, or maybe before I graduate. And so we decided to put together these life skills workshops and, mechanical maintenance, how to change a tire, how to jumpstart a car, things that a lot of students or, individuals in this generation that are in college right now don't necessarily know how to do. Or, I want to make sure, and the whole staff wants to make sure that these student athletes are being prepared now in order to be successful later on after they're done at Towson and graduated.
So I was reading online that you were the co-chair for the TU Women's Faculty and Staff Association. What was that experience like?
So one of my goals when I came to Towson was to get involved, and mainly to get involved kind of outside of athletics, because it's very easy to kind of stay in your bubble and kind of in your silo. But I wanted to branch out and meet other people, just to build connections and things like that. So I ended up, just becoming a member and going to the meetings initially for a year. And then I had actually, because of my athletic, affiliation, I started to implement the social networking event that the Women's Faculty and Staff Association would do at a women's athletic event each semester. So we would, for instance, we would go to a women's basketball or volleyball game. We've done softball one semester. We did field hockey. We would coordinate all of the members for the Women's Faculty Staff Association to come and, just kind of socialize, network, eat some food and just hang out, and then support our women student athletes, because I kind of wanted to bridge that gap across campus to athletics and kind of, combine these two worlds that I was coexisting in. So that was really important. And then after that first year of being a member, I ended up actually being elected the co-chair, which is a 2-year appointment. So myself and then our faculty co-chair, Brianna Snyder, who's actually one of our athletic faculty fellows for some of our teams, we tag teamed and kind of did that role together through the last 2 years.
You mentioned the workshops that you do, the life skills workshops, and I really do like the implementation of that, because I do think that, sometimes we get to college and it's just all academics. Has that also been something that's been kind of pushed to the back burner because of COVID, or is that something you're still finding yourself doing over Skype or Zoom or whatever?
That's a really good question. So we ended up kind of taking a little bit of a hiatus. Coach Ambrose definitely wanted to continue to implement it, and he actually took a poll or a survey from the players to find out which types of topics they were interested in learning about and things like that. And then they kind of voted on, what they wanted, what was the most popular topics that they wanted to at least, try to tackle early on this semester. So we were trying to still implement some things, even though we didn't end up getting to, see everybody face to face. It'd be kind of hard to do a mechanical maintenance workshop, with everybody separate, or we did ballroom dancing classes when we were all together before. We did golf lessons because a lot of business is done on the golf course. So, a lot of the student athletes, had said that they really want to learn about financial literacy. And, a lot of them are upperclassmen who live off campus and who are having to balance their budgets and, rent, utilities, groceries, gas, all of that type of stuff. So they definitely are interested in learning how to do that and how to build credit. So there's definitely a need for it and a want for it from the student's perspective.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. Definitely. Like, as a college student, I'm like, there's things I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I also heard that in your free time, you like to do CrossFit.
Oh, yes. So I've been doing CrossFit since 2013, and I had actually transitioned to powerlifting, I believe back in 2000, like the end of 2017, 2018. I actually competed in 2 competitions, and then I ended up getting pregnant. So I stopped because of, just being concerned about lifting that heavy, and the belt, it would be kind of challenging to wear the weight belt when you're pregnant. So I kind of backed off and then just did some CrossFit, low impact type things. But yeah, I definitely tried to be active. My husband actually does it too. So we go into class and bring our daughter, and she just kind of sits there and watches us.
So you mentioned in the email interview that we did, there are a lot of mixed emotions when you see one of your student athletes graduate and you setting up their senior shoots and stuff. Just taking in everything that, you go through with these student athletes, what's the most rewarding part of your job? Is it seeing them graduate? Is it, having one of them ask you to stand by them? What is it that brings you so much joy about your job?
Mostly it's the little wins. So whether it's a student who is typically, a C student, and they ended up getting a B or an A on an exam or a paper that I saw them physically work so hard to complete or to do and to prepare for, and they finally got to see those results for all their effort and hard work. That is a lot of what I just love seeing. It's very rewarding to do. And I know this is a very thankless job. I put in a lot of time and effort and hours and things like that. I get text messages and, FaceTime calls, up until 10, sometimes 11 o'clock at night. They have an assignment due at 11:59 and Blackboard is screwing up. So they, don't know what to do, and they're reaching out to me. So, I try to be accessible, also try to make boundaries, but a lot of times, because I care so much about their holistic, perspective of them being not just a student, not just being an athlete, but being a human being, and asking them, what's going on in their life, or, just being invested in them, holistically, that definitely speaks volumes, and they know that I care. I go out to practice and I watch them. It's funny because they are on the sideline asking me academic questions, and I'm like, no, shut it down. Just focus on football for right now. We can talk about academics later. But a lot of times, I tell them it's not if I find out, it's when I find out. I have a way of finding out whatever they did or didn't do. But a lot of times they just don't want to disappoint me, because we've built that relationship to the point where I don't get angry at them. I just end up getting disappointed, and they hate that. And so I think just kind of building that relationship throughout the years and seeing them get those mini successes, whether it's just getting a B on a paper, even if they're, a student who doesn't typically get Bs. That's, very rewarding for me. And ultimately seeing them graduate is, the icing on the cake, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, Elysa and Rashad, for joining me. Tune in next week, Tiger fans, for our next episode. And as always, go Tigers.